Welcome to Claim Your Confidence, a podcast that will introduce you to the most powerful people in the world. No matter what obstacles you face, Claim Your Confidence will inspire and motivate you to go after the life you want. Are you ready to claim your confidence?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Claim Your Confidence. I'm Lydia Fenet, coming to you from Newsstand Studios in Rockefeller Plaza. It's a wintry day here in New York, but hopefully we're going to be out of it soon and into spring. Joining me today, I have a very exciting guest, the founder and chief brand officer of the cult kitchen brand classic, Ellen Bennett, who started Hedley and Bennett many years ago. Her story is incredible. I cannot wait for you guys to hear it. Ellen is coming to us from LA. Welcome to the show, Ellen.
Hi, Lydia. I'm so happy to be here. It's much warmer in LA. Sorry to break it to you, sister.
Once again, yet another reason I should move to California, but there we are. I'm a New Yorker. I can't stop. So you grew up in LA. You grew up in Glendale. Is that correct?
Yep. And I live in Pasadena now, so like a stone's throw away. And I never thought I would still be here, and yet I still somehow keep living here, and I love it.
It is funny because I was reading your stories sort of in preparation for this interview, and you really have this amazing ability to move places. So the fact that you are in Los Angeles where you grew up is interesting because there are so many stories of places that you've been as part of your career. So let's start at the beginning. Your mom is Mexican and your dad is British. And I have to know, as someone who has a British mother, how did your parents meet? This is the question I always get from my parents. So I want to throw that one to you.
Totally. They met in LA. Apparently, all roads lead to LA in my life. And they, they're radically different people, but somehow they made it work and got together, made me and my sister, and then, got divorced a few years after that. But I'm like, thank you for participating in each other's lives so that we could exist. And I'm happy with how
just long enough.
Yeah, just long enough for us to pop out. And that was perfect.
The other thing that really struck me when I was reading about you is there's just so much hustle in your life. And as a fellow hustler, I always have respect for someone who just hits the ground running. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and then take me through the childhood that led you to college in Mexico.
Yeah, I definitely think people are born with a, innate sense of energy, right? Like I came out running, if you will. Based on what my mother has told me and the way I've acted since I can remember, I've usually been running from one place to another. I really, truly love action, and I'm not somebody that stares at anything. Like, I don't stare at a problem. I throw myself at it. Like, I literally launch myself at the problem. And if I'm not launching myself, I'm wondering why. What is stopping me from launching myself at that problem right now? So I'm either like trying to figure out how to launch myself or currently launching myself at an issue.
There is no standing still in your life. I understand this. This is very much who I am too, Ellen.
Yes. And it's like, you could say it's sort of crazy, but at the same time, it has allowed me to make a ton of mistakes. And because I move so quickly out of the mistake, I end up coming up with answers in the time that somebody might have stared at the mistake or stared at the potential problem for too long. So I always say, like, at the beginning of Hedley and Bennett, I was like running and falling 18 times, but then I'd figure out 5 amazing solutions in the time that maybe somebody would have been like, maybe I should start a business. And I was already on the road running. And so I got to like figure stuff out a lot, because I was just willing to collapse myself and slam my head into the ground all the time. I think that urge to just do stuff comes from my Mexican background. I grew up with, a bunch of aunts and uncles, and they were first generation to go to college, and they all helped each other get to college. It was like they were born on a farm, and then they moved to a city, and the oldest sister got the younger sister in college, and so on and so forth. So it was really much like a world of just entrepreneurs in their own right, and willing to just make it happen no matter what the circumstances were. And so I just kind of always saw that and thought, that's pretty cool. I'm in such a better position than where they started. I have zero excuses to sit around and complain about my situation. when my mom and her family already did all the hard work, right? She's an RN, so registered nurse in Mexico, came to the States and had to redo her entire career to be certified in the US. Like she basically became a doctor to become a nurse.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that level of effort in a secondary language, like all those things that, you don't really think about, but I'm like, no, 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 no. I have so much more than they had when they started. I have no excuse. So that's always been like a motivating driver for me. And I really appreciate and value my culture. And, having grown up half Mexican, half English, I actually had something to compare it to. I saw my friends in the US and they had a pretty cushy life. They had money, they had cars, they had robust educations, and I did not see them necessarily have the same level of drive to match that because everything was like convenient. They didn't have
Yeah.
to fight and struggle. And I did have a bit more of the struggle, and I had the context of the two. So I think that was like a huge driver for me. I just
Yeah.
recognized money is not the thing that's making these people succeed or drive or hustle. It's actually like something that they've experienced or a hardship or something, right? Like my parents' hardship or my mom's hardship made me want to work harder. If I hadn't
Yeah.
seen that, I don't
Yeah.
know if I would be the same like tenacious young kid that I was.
And what was it like to have a dad as a pilot? I've always thought it must be cool to be able to get on a plane and go places with your
Yeah.
dad. I mean, was that part of your life too? Because that must have been kind of fun.
It's funny and kind of ironic, but my dad always wanted to take road trips because he flew planes for a living. So he did not
He's like,
really.
everyone in the car. You're like, but what?
Yeah, he'd be like, "Let's drive to Oklahoma," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like we could get on a plane and go to Japan or something." And no, that was not the case. So we didn't travel all that much with him. But when I was 22, which was the year right before I got cut off from the like travel extension that you get when you're the daughter of a pilot, I was like, please let me take these tickets and go around the world and just go wherever I want. And he was like, okay, deal. So for 2 months, after I had lived in Mexico for 4 years and kind of had proven myself, gone through college, all this stuff, this was like one of the biggest gifts I ever got from my dad. And I was like, cool, I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Argentina. I want to go wherever I wanted. And it was this beautiful moment after having lived for alone for 4 years in Mexico City, gotten my way through school, paid my way there, arrived to Mexico with no money and left as like a really different person. Like I had no experience and I left with so many like life war wounds and challenges that I went through living there alone and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go around the world. And then I got to go see the whole world for 2 months. And it was on a shoestring budget, but I stayed in hostels and I just was like, cool, I'm going to go to Argentina. All right, next I'm going to go to London. Like, and it proved to myself how much confidence, I don't know, honestly, reach I could have in the world. It was like, the world is your oyster, literally. Like get on the plane and go to the
Go anywhere
place
you
you
want.
want to go to. Yeah, and it
Wait, can I
boosted.
can I pause you for just
Yeah,
1 second to
yes.
ask you though, when you were, what was the first place you went on the plane trip? Like, where did you go first?
I flew to New York, stayed at my friend's house, and I remember sitting in her bathtub, like mapping where I wanted to go. And her dad, like my friend wasn't even there. Her parents, I was at her parents' house. And they were like, "So where are you gonna go?" And I like came out of the bathtub with like a list. And I was like,
These are the 90 places I'll be
yeah,
in
it
two
was
months if you
like
need me.
I grew up hearing about all these like special, unique spots in the world. I'm like, I'm gonna go to England and I'm gonna go to Stonehenge. Like it was just so funny. It was like a little child going out to the world for the first time and just being like, I've heard of this place called Stonehenge. I should go there. And then I went and I went to England and I went to, London and I went to a few spots. Then I went up to Scotland. Then I went to Stonehenge. And I was like, cool, it's a pile of rocks. All right, awesome. Next spot. And I just kind of like started checking it off the list. And I went to Japan. I climbed Mount Fuji alone.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
I mean, it was truly like I was doing a little bit of a bucket list adventure of my life in this consolidated period with no limitations and not a lot of budget, but just a lot of creativity. And it was an amazing experience because it just, again, it proved to me that I could go out and grab whatever the hell I wanted and do whatever I wanted. And it wasn't impossible. Like nothing was impossible. And that was a great foundation for the next, 13 years of my life. That would be this insane entrepreneurial adventure that I've been on. But that was like that's what gave me the wind beneath my wings to kind of go to this next stage. And I never talk about that, which is so funny. But yeah, I'm glad you got that out of me, Lydia.
No, I love it. I'm such a traveler that I always think to myself when I'm in an airport as I'm walking down, to go on a flight to LA or to San Francisco or somewhere in the US, and I'll see like a flight to Istanbul. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
I should
totally.
just get on that flight right now,
Yeah.
and I always think about what that would be like. I say it to my kids all the time as we're walking down, I'm like, wouldn't it be amazing to go to South Africa right now? And they're like, I thought we were
Totally.
going to Louisiana to see our parents. I'm like, we are, but I'm just saying
Sorry.
Cape Town would be, it's a great place. We should go.
Totally.
No, I just think that that is such a huge part of getting over your own issues with confidence. It's why I travel with my children so much because I'm like, this allows you to understand that there's something outside of what you think the world
Yes.
looks like. And it's good for you to be uncomfortable and realize that this is not your world. It's all of our worlds in its own,
100%.
the way that we see it.
Yeah.
So when did cooking come into this? Was this something that you'd been doing your whole life, or was this something that you were experiencing as you're traveling around the world? When did that become part of your life?
Yeah, it was definitely always part of my life, and I was just finding ways to integrate it constantly. So when I went on that little trip around the world, that little big trip around the world, it was very much like I would hang out at supermarkets. I would go shop in the Tokyo supermarkets. I was more excited to see the day-to-day food life than like a fancy restaurant. I also couldn't afford a fancy restaurant, so it was like, cool, go stare at the fish market, go walk the aisles of the ramen shop, like that was what was really interesting to
Yeah.
me. And having lived in Mexico for 4 years, Mexico City, that was at a time when Mexico City was not on the cover of Condé Nast Traveler the way it is today, right? It wasn't the hot
Yeah.
spot that it's
Yeah.
become. Everyone was like, "Are you insane? Why are you
Yeah.
going to live in Mexico City?" I'm like, "No, this place is actually really cool." But it took people forever to come
Yeah.
to realize that. So I was just getting the like fruits of this epic country for 4 years. And, that just made me love food even more. And it honestly created the foundation for what would become Hedley and Bennett. It was like food, it was this like epic amount of color. Mexico City is so colorful. I went to places on my trip like Argentina, etc., and those places were super colorful. So everywhere I went, I was just absorbing food, culture, and color. And those kind of like combined into this juggernaut that like I inserted into Hedley and Bennett's future life.
You didn't even know what you were doing. You were just collecting as you went along.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of people do that. Like our lives are, we're just like dust busting all this information and experience. And, I talk about it in my book, like you're building a confidence belt. You're just like putting notches on your confidence belt. Every time something good happens and every time something shitty happens, you just got another notch on your life belt. And I love getting notches. I love when things go wrong and when things go right because I get to have learned something from that moment. And usually the darker, the worse, the more I learn, which is, but
Yeah.
that kind of sucks, but it's the truth. And I don't know, all of it was just like a ton of experience. So then when I came back to the States and decided, you know what, I'm going to go into culinary, I'm going to go work at a professional restaurant. I already had all this kind of confidence belt around me. And I thought, of course, I can
Yeah.
walk in through the back door of a two Michelin star restaurant and ask for a job. Because I went and climbed Mount Fuji, because I lived alone in Mexico, because I went over here, because I
Yeah.
failed miserably at that thing that I tried 7 times, because I supported myself, because I raised my sister when I was 9 years old. Like all of these things just accumulated to a moment when instead of saying no, I said hell yes to an opportunity. And then that just like took me on this wild adventure that I've been on. But it started with being willing to show up and take a no, maybe, but also potentially take a yes. And, I didn't have any experience when I got my first job at Providence Restaurant in LA. It's been on the like number one best restaurant in LA forever. We have 2 Michelin stars. My chef is a James Beard Award winning chef. Like he is one of the most respected chefs in the country. And I just walked in and asked him for a job. Like that is not how you get a job at a restaurant. You go
It's
to a really
yeah,
fancy school, you get a recommendation,
yeah,
have somebody email on your behalf. Like there's protocol. And I lit that
yeah.
protocol on fire and just went and got it.
It's amazing. So you just literally walked in and said, "I want a job,"
Yeah,
and he
literally. I
said,
walked in.
"Sure."
Yeah, I mean, to break it down specifically, this was the hustle. I walked in through the back door. I speak Spanish fluently, obviously, and so I saw a couple of waiters and busboys walking out, and so I spoke to them in Spanish as they were going out on their lunch break, and I was like, "Me puede decir dónde está el chef?" I was like, "Where's the chef? Can you point me in his direction? I want to get a job." And there's like, some sort of unitedness, right? You speak Spanish, I speak Spanish. Like, I see you. You want a job? I'm going to help
Yeah.
you, point you in the right direction. They walked me to the kitchen, and then I turned around and they were gone. So they like showed me where it was. And
Camaraderie's
then
over. It's
yeah,
lunchtime.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, bye, good luck. So I'm standing in this giant stainless steel kitchen surrounded by like, the most beautiful food you've ever seen, and everyone is just moving at a clip that you'd think everyone's in the army. It's like da 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 da, da, like sense of urgency. And I walk over to the counter and I kind of identify somebody that I think is in charge. And they're like, first of all, like, what the hell is this girl doing in this kitchen? I'm wearing like a purple dress. My head is shaved on one side. I have like a heart cut into my hair. I mean, it was quite the look for getting a line cook job. And I was like, "Hi, I think your restaurant is amazing. Like, I'd love to talk to your chef and get the opportunity to work here." I didn't make an appointment. I didn't let them know I was coming. I was just there. And he was like, "Okay, like, yeah, I guess. Let me get the chef." So then he pulls out Michael Cimarusti, who is a huge guy with massive hands and a giant beard, kind of like a fisherman, but like very regal. And I had my 30-second like elevator moment to talk to the executive of Capitol Records moment. Like this was the window. And I was like, okay, he's gonna hear me out. And I just said to him, "Chef, I just moved from Mexico City. I'm Mexican and I have the work ethic to prove it. Let me work at your restaurant. I will show you how great I could work. What if we do a tryout this weekend? I could start on Friday." And he was just like, "What is happening?"
What
Like,
is happening?
yeah, yeah, like the whole kitchen had stopped. Everybody was looking over at me, being like, "Is this seriously happening? We're literally hearing her pitch herself to work at this restaurant." And he was like, "Okay, deal. Come in on Friday." And I was like, "Even better. I'll come in the whole weekend so you can see multiple days of my efforts, and then we can talk about a job at the end." And he was like, "Sure." And I'm like, "Excellent." And I think I like stuck my hand out and shook it. And
He's
and I
like
was
in
like,
his regal fisherman
yes,
way,
his
like shook your
big old
hand,
massive hands.
his
And
huge
then he
paws.
was like, "Okay, I'll see you on Friday." And then I showed up and I was like, "Hi, it's me again." And they were like, "Oh, we remember." I did the whole night. I worked the job, whatever. And at the end of the night, I was
And
like,
what was the job? Like, what were you doing at this point?
everything, anything. They're like, "Squeeze these lemons, pick these herbs, clean the floor." Like they were just giving me any and every job to see how I performed. And at the end of the night, I was like, "They're for sure going to give me a job." And I went up to the sous chef and I'm like, "Well, so do I get the job? Like, what are next steps?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're not hiring." And I'm like,
Yeah, he's like,
"No."
there is no job.
I was
He's
like,
like, there
"Wait."
is literally no job.
Yeah. But I was like, "You know what? I got my pinky in the fucking door and I'm not about to
Yeah,
leave." So I just said to him,
yeah.
"That's totally fine. Let me keep coming for free and I will keep on working. I just want to learn from you guys. You guys are the best. And I want to be here. So let me keep coming." And he was like, "Okay." And so I did that for 2 more weeks. And then I insisted on going to the farmer's market with them because that's what I do. So I'm like at the farmer's market shopping with them at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. And he turns over and looks at me. This is the sous chef, T-Bone. They call him T-Bone. He was like, "How quickly can you quit your other jobs? We'd like to hire you." And I was like,
Oh
"Oh
my
my
gosh,
God."
2 weeks. Look at
Yeah.
that. You're like, I don't have any other jobs. I was really putting all my eggs in this basket, by the way.
No, I had a lot of other jobs. So I was like, I was like, let me see what I can do. We'll figure some stuff out. And I was like, but absolutely, I would love to. And so that was it. I got this job. But it's such a testament to like when somebody says no, don't just fucking throw in the towel and walk out. Like, find
Yeah.
a way. It's maybe no because it's not the right time, but it doesn't mean no forever. And
Yeah.
because I stuck around, I was the best next option when they needed somebody. Instead of having to go out and put an ad up and look for a line cook, there's like, oh, well, there's that maniac over there who doesn't stop moving and is helping us clean everything and has a lot of like enthusiasm. Let's hire her. So then I was in the club, and that was the beginning of my journey in professional kitchens. And it was like the beginning of my MBA in how to survive literally anything. And 2 years after that little moment, I started Hedley and Bennett in that kitchen.
And so what was the impetus for that? I mean, it started with an apron. So
Yeah.
why? Like you're just looking around, you're like, this stuff is not working. What
Yeah.
was the next step after that?
It was very it was very unprofessional. It was very much just like a concept in my head, and there was no plan. I didn't have an MBA. There was no like, I see a white space in the market and I went to Stanford. Therefore, I'm going to disrupt this market and sell the company for $50 million. Blah, blah, blah. None of that existed. All I saw was we are these cooks. We work our asses off and we make the most beautiful food in Los Angeles, if not the country. And yet our attire doesn't match what we're doing. I'm also
Yeah.
a runner. I run marathons. And so my uniform really represented like how I felt about myself as a runner. So I kind of merged those two concepts in my brain. And I was just like, if I can make people look and feel amazing in the kitchen, like I could potentially even change this industry. And that was where it began. And so it was like helping people feel and look amazing. And not from like an ego standpoint, but really just like a self pride. I'm worth it, even if I'm the
Yeah.
dishwasher or I'm the executive chef. It doesn't matter. You need all those players to accomplish one night in a kitchen because it's just like if one piece breaks, the whole thing just collapses. So it began there, and I was working at another restaurant too because I'm totally wild like that. And the chef said to me, "We have some chick. She's making us aprons. Do you want to buy one?" And that was my little window. And I was like, "Chef, I have an apron company. I will make you those aprons. What's her turnaround? I will do it better and faster." And Hedley and Bennett was born from that. And I didn't have any sewing experience and I didn't have a plan and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I had done that enough times in my life where I said yes and took that little boat sailing by and like leaped onto it and somehow landed or didn't land enough times that I knew that I could get up again. And
Yeah.
Hedley and Bennett began like that. And it was so scrappy. I had no money, no investors, no resources. It took me years and years and years to build a robust community of chefs that were giving me feedback and that I was making things to order. And, 11 years into this, people are like, oh my God, what a success story. But like, it's been 11 and
Overnight
a half
success. You're
years.
like, uh-huh. Yeah. No, no,
Yeah,
not so much. Yeah. It's so
totally.
interesting. The title of your book is Dream First, Details Later, which I think
Yeah,
is makes total sense actually after hearing this story on every level. But one thing
yeah,
I love that you just said, and I fully agree with this in every way, shape, and form, is the idea that sometimes you just have to leap and then you figure it out. A
yeah,
lot of times, even as a speaker, I say to people all the time, I can speak on anything because at the end of the day, I can find the material and I know how to speak. Right. So if you give me a
yes,
stage and a microphone, I'll come up with a speech about anything because at the end of the day, there's always someone who can tell me what I need to know and I know how to craft a story. And those are what you need as a good speaker. And I think
yes,
that in business, I see, and I'm sure you do too, in the entrepreneurial world and in outside of the entrepreneurial world, there are so many people who get so hung up on having it all figured out when in
yeah,
fact, half of the stuff that you think is going to happen doesn't happen anyway. It goes in a
totally.
completely different direction 9 times out of 10. And
Yep,
the true entrepreneurs who are good at their jobs are the ones who know that, aren't scared of it, and are kind of like, this is part of the process. I just have to let things go and just keep forging the path. And it seems
that's
like
right.
this is what you've done time and
Yep,
time again. Hedley and Bennett was born of aprons, but
yeah.
how far did that get you? And then what was the next step?
essentially, to get really nerdy, we did B2B, so business to business, where we were
Yeah.
outfitting chefs and restaurants specifically for a very long time. Like we're talking years, 7 years, 7, 8 years. And it
And you
wasn't
say we,
until,
that's you with a sewing kit, or who are you
yes,
using to do
no, me
this?
with a team of sewers that I had found and cobbled together a small, little crew. Again, everything was totally grassroots. Marketing was grassroots. We didn't do ads. We didn't have any ad spend. We weren't doing Instagram ads. It was just purely word of mouth and me showing up at events and talking to as many chefs as I could get my hands on and in front of. And through that, we actually built this like rock solid foundation of people that loved and coveted our brand, even though we were tiny as an organization. Because I was so willing to show up and talk to people with my team, people thought we were much bigger than we were because everybody loved us so much and the quality was so good. So we were not
Mhm.
only like really delivering to our community, we were getting people on the bandwagon, and that took years and years of like street by street, chef by chef, showing up again and again and again and having that face time to establish friendship, really. Right? And people talk about like community and all this stuff is such like a buzzword now, but I'm like, you're really just talking about becoming friends with people and supporting them when they need you and you need them, right? It's like that's really
Yeah.
brass
Yeah.
tacks what it is. That's how you
Yeah.
build goodwill. You can't buy goodwill with a Facebook ad. You just
No.
can't. Nobody
Mm-mm.
cares about your business. You have to have done something to make them feel like you give a shit about them. And we
Yeah.
did that for 7+ years. So by the time we got around to doing more than aprons, it was so welcomed. It was almost like demanded. They
They
were,
were waiting for it. They were ready for
yeah,
it.
they're like, well, what else are you going to make? Like, make more stuff for us. You have amazing quality. You have amazing customer service. You're a real, genuine brand that cares about their people. And you actually come from this industry. So you know what the hell you're talking about. What else can you give us?
Yeah.
So we had this like huge running list of requests from our community. And then COVID happened, and we were forced to go from this sort of, smaller, scrappier, like do custom anything for anyone to no, we can't do that anymore because all the supply chains just exploded. And we actually have
Yeah.
to streamline and scale and organize things and create a little bit of a menu. Like, you want custom? Here's the product we offer in these colors with these straps and this ampersand, and that's it. And pick
And
your
that's it.
embroidery, and we're no longer going to make you a purple pony if that's what you want on your apron. And so that really changed my perspective as an entrepreneur, where everything was like very homegrown, and it went to no, we're going to scale our quality. And because we did that, we became more efficient. We saved more
Mhm.
money. We were able to do more for more people in less time, and that was like the beginning of the shift. And then we jumped from like business to direct to consumer, and that happened during COVID because everybody was at home and they were cooking. We had to adapt to the environment. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's time to unleash this next rollout of all of our culinary products. So then it became knives, cutting boards, all kinds of tools that we've been launching and working on. But it was like a lot of seeds being sown, and just now, almost 3 years later, you're starting to see all those products appear. But it took the decision, the change in the supply chain, the adjustment within the company, and then this decision to like be different to go to this next chapter. And now we are really like this properly robust culinary brand. But that was a huge leap, and one that I've definitely seen owners try to do and fail at, because it's not easy to go from B2B to direct to consumer. Like, you usually don't have a brand when you're just doing business to business,
Yeah.
but we did.
Absolutely.
So we like used that to really push ourselves into this other category. And now we're, so much bigger. But again, all of that took a long time, and it's just like the long game. My whole journey is about playing the long game. Like, nothing has been overnight, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I like to talk about it because all you hear about is overnight successes, and it's just bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, even people who say that it's an overnight success, those are one in a million. It's very much sort of
Totally.
buzzword of our society, but that's not the reality. And I agree, the long game, it's day after day, it's time after time. As an author, you sell book by book, you
Yeah.
sell apron by apron. And that really is such a crucial part of being an entrepreneur and a founder
Yeah,
of a company. And I think if you lose sight of that, you've kind of lost the entire concept, because at some
100%.
point, if you don't understand that you build the community as the person who is starting this brand, you build the community person by
Yeah,
person, that you don't even understand the journey at that point. And I think that that's really such a key part of it all. And also probably a lot of what makes it fun, to
yeah,
actually understand like the consumer who's standing in front of you is buying this because they love
totally.
what you've created. They love this world. They love the story of you marching into that kitchen in your purple dress and getting that job. Like that's all
Yeah,
part of this journey, and why an apron is something that
yeah,
is going to make someone feel great and show up, and why
totally.
that sharp knife is going to be good because you've used it and been in that kitchen. You've
Yeah,
lived the brand.
exactly. And not only did that, but like that entire community that we worked so hard to create became the kind of like test bunnies and models for our entire collection of new products. So we don't just launch products now, we take them into professional restaurants and we seed the knives that we created and we listen to their feedback. And then we go back and we do more samples. We bring it back to the restaurant. They give us more feedback. We create 3D prints. We put them in their hands. Like our entire model is using professional chefs to develop professional grade material for professional kitchens. But also, by the way, they're beautiful so they can be used at home too. So
Yeah.
it's like we're in the direct to consumer space because we are now selling it online, but the quality is of a pro grade chef. And again, the long game, I'm not worried about selling 50 and having you never coming back. I actually want to sell maybe 25, but you're going to come back and buy every other product I launch because of the quality that I made in the first thing.
Yeah. My husband is such a knife snob. I can't even tell you. I mean, he really, I wish that I was a good cook. I am not. But my husband, on the other hand, loves to cook. But when we first started dating, I remember he came into my kitchen. He's like, "What are these knives?" I'm like, "I don't think I've even used these. I don't even know. I don't even know where I got them. They're just, maybe they were here when I got here. I don't know." And it's his wedding gift for everyone. He always gives people knives because he thinks they are the most important part of the kitchen
They're so
experience.
important.
So, Ellen, what do you do next with this line? You've launched obviously a lot of products. Obviously, we have the aprons. That's sort of like the bread and
Yes.
butter. But what is the next step for you? I mean, what else are you going to fail at? What can we watch?
What can we watch? So we've done a tremendous amount of collaborations along the years, which have just allowed us to explore new genres and areas and pockets of people. Like we've done collabs with Vans and Crocs and Grateful Dead, and we have one coming out with Martha Stewart this year, and
Oh,
the
so fun.
NFL, and who else do we have? We have a bunch of different people, but then we also do these great creator collabs where we're finding somebody up and coming on social media and they get to create something with us, and it's like a radical success every time it happens. Like the last one sold out I think in 32 minutes. Like it was
Wait, so
crazy.
who is this person should I put my husband up for this? I think he has 100 Instagram followers. He may not even be on Instagram anymore, but is he the person you're looking for? Like, who's this person who comes up on social
the,
media
the,
and uses
the
the knives?
creator co the creator collabs we team up with are usually like really interesting people with interesting backgrounds, big followings, but they have a very distinct point of view, and they don't necessarily have to be a professional chef, they just have to be like a very hardcore cook. It's everything from that to like Grateful Dead or Sesame Street collab. So that range is really fun. So I'd say that's something
Yeah.
that we just continue to do. And then we're working on kitchen tools. Those are about to launch in a month and a half, which is very exciting because everybody's kitchen tool drawer at home sucks. Like guaranteed your
Yes.
kitchen tool drawer probably looks
Right.
terrible, but I bet you
Check.
your beauty cabinet looks amazing. That's
So
too
I
much.
need to understand the kitchen drawer, and clearly I need to come to
Yeah.
you to figure this out.
Yes. So we've like basically sat with all these chefs and said, what are the top tools you need in a kitchen and how do we make them better? So the same construct for the apron we applied to the kitchen tools, to the knives. So basically anything you get from Hedley and Bennett is no bullshit, the best that you can get. And also it is the essential. We're never going to sell you a tchotchke. It's just the core necessary things. And by the way, they look great. So it's a
I mean,
double,
my
triple
life has been
benefit.
changed Ellen, what fun it has been to talk to you. You're such a fiery burst of energy, and I love every second of it. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you for sharing your amazing stories of travels around the world and living in Mexico as a college student. I mean, how fun. And I also love what you've done for this industry, which is in so many ways what everybody needs to be doing in their own industry, which is looking within and figuring out how to better it. So thank you for your time today. Now,
Yeah.
where can we find you? I know you've told us a little bit about the Creator Labs, but what is coming after that?
So we are working on a TV show called Kitchen Glow Up, which is very exciting. It's
Yes.
like kind of a culmination of my love of design and food and busting into people's kitchens, apparently. But now I'm busting into people's home kitchens and renovating their kitchen through the lens of a chef. So in
How
2 weeks,
fun.
we go in, we change everything, we focus on function, and then, by the way, we make the kitchen look amazing too. So it's form, it's function, it's design, it's super great, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And that launches in May, so that'll be like a real life manifestation of Hedley and Bennett. Of course, everybody can follow us on Ellen Marie Bennett. That's my personal Instagram for all of my wild adventures, and then Hedley and Bennett as well.
Well, I always leave our listeners with one question or comment. And I think today I would say, what has been your biggest failure that you want to share? Because I truly believe, as Ellen clearly does too, that life's about the more failures, the better. So DM us, share it. Happy to reshare it on Instagram or whatever social channel Ellen wants to share it on. But I'd love to know. I always love a good failure story. So pop it in my DMs, pop it in Ellen's DMs, and we can respond to you. I want to thank you again, Ellen, for coming. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I've learned so much, and I have so much to do after this podcast. Thank you to Newsstand Studios and Rockefeller Center for allowing us to use this beautiful studio every single time, every single Tuesday. I am Lydia Fenet. This is Claim Your Confidence. I look forward to being with you guys again on Tuesday, but in the meantime, I will be getting my kitchen supplies up to date, thanks to Ellen. Have a great day.